I'm Jen Wagner, aka Loop-de-Loo, and I'm here with my first tutorial ever on axis isolations. I'm going to demo a move and break it down, and then I'm going to talk more about axis isolations in relation to standard isolation, show you a few different types of axis isolations, and then show you a two-handed continuous version of this first move I'm going to be teaching you. So we want to think about the hoop moving along an axis. So I've taped a little point here and a little point here so that you can kind of visualize this imaginary axis that we're moving the hoop around, like that. We're going to start in chicken grip. You start with your arm underneath the hoop here, and then reach from the inside and grab it on the top. This move requires you to grip tightly at some points and kind of loosen up at other points. You'll kind of get the feel for how you want to do that. So you start here. You're going to bring your arm down to 6 o'clock. I always screw my clocks. 6 o'clock. This is my 9 o'clock. Up to 12 o'clock. And you want to keep this point as still as humanly possible. That's where practice comes in. And I've been doing this for a year and still not perfect. But and then back over to my 3 o'clock. Down again to 6. Over to my 9. At this point, you've done a complete rotation and your arm can't go anymore in that direction. It would like break. So we come back the other way, up. This is the part, when you get up to the top, is kind of where you would want to loosen your grip for a split second and then kind of re-grip and tighten it so you can crank it back down. And again on the bottom. It's those two, it's the top and the bottom where you really need to change grip. You can do this with heavier hoops. It's difficult. Lighter hoops are easier, but they don't quite get the momentum sometimes. And note that my whole arm is moving around, similar to when you do an isolation like this and your whole arm is tracing the circumference of the hoop. The same thing is happening here. My whole arm is moving around the outside of this imaginary globe that we've got going on. If I kept my arm stationary and just flip my hand around, or flip the hoop around my hand, that's a totally different thing. That's just flipping it, and the axis would be like right here and not going across the hoop. So that's not what we're looking for. So the difference between axis isolations and normal, this kind of thing, regular isolation, I guess, or linear, is it goes through, the hoop will move through every single possible plane that exists, which makes it awesome for plane transitions. Here it's 2 dimensions. You can see the width of the hoop, the height of the hoop. You don't see the depth. Once you get it going this way, you see the width, the height, and the depth is coming out in front of me. So it makes for a very dynamic visual. So when you're doing different isolations, if you want to change planes, you're in a flat plane, you can do this and now you're in vertical, flip it to you. Now you're in a front wall plane. If you just flip it to here, vertical, you're in a sidewall plane. And there's different ways. This isn't the only axis flip there is. So one axis flip you can do, which I'll do with a small one because I have a little ceiling here, would be a palm spin. So my axis is again across with these little points. It's spinning in my palm, so that's kind of the axis there. There's also Z-spins where the axis travels across. It's kind of hard to explain. This is something you can learn from Steve Baggs. He's the Z-spin guy, if you ask me. So that changes. It's still spinning along the axis, but because you're actually moving your hand, you're moving the axis in this kind of circular pattern. And then my favorite sort of fun axis thing would be where you would start here to here. It's my axis. This works way better with smaller hoops. I can do it with up to 35 inches, but it's very difficult because it gets really close to your body, and if you have longer arms it will work. My arm's not so long, so I'll do this with like a mini or, you know, slightly smaller hoop. So right now, the only grip I have are my 2 pointer fingers exerting pressure on the hoop at opposite sides. I'm using my thumb and my, I guess, middle finger and ring fingers to kind of turn it along. Right now my hands are at 3 and 9. If I start to turn my hands, keep spinning, I'm just moving my hands up to 12 and 6. The hoop is now spinning. The front is going from the right to the left. If I keep spinning the hoop in that same direction and then bring my hands up to the opposite, so now my left is at 12, my right is at 6, the hoop is now spinning from the left to the right. So it switches directions. It makes pretty cool kind of optical illusion stuff. It's awesome with LED hoops because it really, if you capture the light trails in a photo, it looks like this giant spinning orb in your hands. So that is always awesome. I like giant spinning orbs. So then the last part of this would be to do it continually. This is really wonky for me. I'm not very good at this. I learned it from Savannah Sass Dragon. She's really good at it, but my left arm is not so hot at this. So you'd start just how we did before, doing this. Once you get, you go across, you come back to your right hand on your right side of your body. You got your left hand in there. So it's resting right on top. It's the same thing where your arm comes from the inside onto the outside to grip it. And then you kind of crank it with your left hand, comes across your body. You get it returned to that starting position, and you get your right hand back in there. And you can just kind of keep continually doing this flip. It gets really out of plane for me really fast, but as long as you kind of get the gist. There's one other thing I guess I forgot. Axis flips, where you're flipping the hoop around the axis, not necessarily spinning it so much. So, say my axis is here. You can, I'm going to just hold this hand here for demonstration to show that it's not moving. And you want to flip it over here. And then you can kind of crank it down. And axis is here. Flip it up. So that's another type of axis flip. And that will get you into, again, depending on where you stop the hoop, you're into any different plane that you want to be in. So these are really great for transitioning moves, coming from on body to off body, vice versa. This at first was awkward for me to like just get into this and flow, so I've come up with a combination move that I'm going to do in a separate tutorial that I'll be posting very shortly, probably right after this one. So you can see an easy way to come into that without thinking, okay, now I've got to get into this chicken bits and do this thing, because it kind of is a flow breaker. So, I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, whatever, you can put it in the comments and I will do my best to respond. Thanks so much.